No rant today, folks. I just didn't have time. Unless, of course, my good friend Drew would like to do one.
Well, you know what? I was expecting a rant, so now the rant is going to be that there is no rant. Twos, what are you doing?
Twos has been flying. Like, he's got 20 unread text messages. Every email that's been sent to me has been ignored. I've been working every waking minute.
There's my rant. Look at that.
I barely had time to go to the post office and pick up this hat.
It's a nice looking hat.
It's a beauty hat. Oh, I don't know. I hope it shows up good. But that is Alberta and Ralph Klein flipping off. It's a part of our heritage. This is our culture.
Indeed.
And
good times.
Yeah, it was sent out by a fan of the show. She's got a friend who's just starting to put them together. There's no link or anything like that, but they're going to be out there soon. If you're interested, let me know, and I'll pass along the information. And I'll probably be wearing this a few times. So hopefully when it's all together, I'll be able to, tell everybody where they can find their own. But yes, today, welcome everybody. We are joined by Drew Weatherhead, Social Disorder Podcast. Been a guest on Sean's show multiple times. I've been on his show a few times. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. So I'm trying to prepare myself for today because it's the first mashup I've been on. And if I get this right, Sean is away, so I have to basically reprise the role of Sean Newman. And so what I expect is that you're supposed to rant. I'm supposed to tell you how stupid it is, and then you're supposed to carry the show. Does that sound about right?
I feel like we kind of share the duties. But yeah, I mean, if you got it locked down that well, maybe we just keep you on here for good.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I can do that. That's a pretty low bar to hit.
Okay.
Poor Sean, he's not here to defend himself.
Yeah, that's the best part, actually. Is that oh wait 1 second here. Oh no. We got some issues. Drew knows what's up. That's what Jen says. And we got some issues with my live stream on Twitter. So hopefully that will happen later. But for right now,
might be a Microsoft problem. I heard the whole internet went down overnight.
Well, I mean, they did. That's interesting because I'm guessing it's because they let their entire DEI division go. That's probably what happened. they let go of all their diversity hires, and now Microsoft.
Well, that's presuming that they were doing anything with the diversity hires to begin with.
Well, obviously they were, because they had to be there. Otherwise, why would they have hired them?
That's a really good
question.
Just
go around just hiring. You can't just go around hiring people just because there's something or another thing. That's ridiculous. But speaking of diversity, speaking of diversity hires, somebody took a shot at Trump this week.
Damn, son. We're in Wild West times right now.
Yes. So we could start with this wherever you want. If anybody listened to Sean talking to Jamie, Chuck, and Danny, I think they did a pretty good job of covering things. One of the major issues coming outside of all this is that it seems as though, Kevin, good morning, Drew and Twos. Hey, Kev. It seems as though, from my side, the DEI played a bit of a part in this. And, I mean, maybe it was some kind of a weird setup, or maybe it was a bunch of people just intentionally looking the other way. I mean, you've got this suspicious setup on top of the roof that has everything except for velvet curtains leading up to it.
They had a ladder on the roof, like leading up to the roof.
There's a ladder going up to it. And they're like, okay, well, where's the obvious place that someone's going to try and snipe from? Keeping in mind that leftists aren't very good with guns. That water tower that's 300 yards away, that's going to be way beyond their capability. But this one that's a little pot shot, and
131
then
meters.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then you've got them saying the head of the Secret Service saying, "Well, there's a slope on the roof, so we couldn't put anybody on it." But meanwhile, the slope where the counter snipers were was actually higher. And
Are you
so,
using high level algebra here? This might be beyond most viewers. If you can look right there, it's very hard to tell that it's literally like 3 or 4 times more slopey on the
yes.
counter snipers.
Yes. So basically, they said, we can't have them on this perfect place to snipe from. We can't have anybody on this perfect place to snipe from because it's too slopey. Meanwhile, it definitely wasn't. Well, it was too slopey for him to make the shot, but it wasn't too slopey for him to get up there. I just,
This is my favorite meme right now too. Is I'm seeing I'm sharing them with everybody. Everybody I love is getting just inundated with slope memes right now. There was one
yeah,
I saw that said "Protect your family from the government," and it showed like a
a
accessibility
wheelchair
ramp
ramp.
going up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nice that the left has finally found a slippery slope that they're worried about.
There had to be one.
But yeah, I think this is perfect right here. I think everybody's seen the picture of this body positivity Secret Service woman who hid behind Trump.
Yeah, she's hiding her
And
calories. It's dangerous out
she's
there.
like, and in some sense, I would say that Secret Service, you could kind of make a decent argument for the body positivity movement because the bigger somebody is, the easier it's going to be to hide behind them.
True.
Uh, but you kind of defeat the purpose when you're hiding behind, when you're using the former president as a human shield so that you can duck. What are you even doing there in the first place?
It was a confusing job application. They just saw body shield and they didn't realize they were supposed to be the shield.
Oh, I tell you what, though. I mean, using an AR-15 for a 150-yard shot is a stupid idea. And I'm really glad that I'm on the side that doesn't abhor the use of guns because when they finally have to, they're just at a complete loss.
Mm.
Like, I don't know. It's not much bigger than a 22. And
No,
that
it's
would
a
be a
223.
yeah, that would be a pretty damn difficult shot with a 22.
Well,
And
okay,
so
just hold up. It'd be damn difficult shot for a really casual hobbyist. I was listening to Tim
with a
Kennedy talk about
22,
this. Yeah. Yeah, I was listening
well,
to Tim
not with
Kennedy
what
talk
he
about this.
used, with a 22, I'm saying. 150 yards with a 22,
Sure, sure,
pretty
but you got a lot
difficult
more
shot.
velocity on the 223, so
Yeah.
your drop isn't so bad, it's a little flatter of a shot. The guy had a rangefinder, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And he
But
made the joke that his 10-year-old could make that shot 10 out of 10 times. Like, it's not a difficult
well,
shot for somebody that's got any sort of experience, and so
no,
and you know what's funny about the AR-15 as the choice is, like, what a perfect choice. If this were a psyop in any way, shape,
that's
or
the
form,
thing. That's why it got picked,
yeah,
guaranteed.
guaranteed.
Because like if I mean, I'm not going to, but if I was going to go down to Pennsylvania in that exact same situation on that exact same roof, I would take something like a 7mm or well, actually not even I'd probably take something like a 30-06.
Okay.
Like that's a shot. Actually, you know what? That's a shot that I could make 10 times out of 10 with my muzzle loader. I could probably go out another 70, 80 yards and make that 10 times out of 10 with my muzzle loader. Okay? But the thing about it is you got a higher mass bullet and it's not going to be affected by anything.
That's true. Okay. So the caliber was a simple caliber. It wasn't as powerful as it probably could have been. The gun seems suspicious because it is like the quote assault rifle du jour for the left to rage about.
Yes.
It was somebody that apparently registered as a Republican, so they're using that as a big
Mhm.
scapegoat. Whereas there's still video of this guy raging about kill and slit all Republican throats. Like it's kind of funny to watch the left play the conspiracy theorists now. They're
They
trying so
suck
hard.
at it. They suck at it so much.
They've never tried.
There were so many things about that. You had oh shoot. Let me just try and find a couple here real quick. You
Well,
had
the
you had
conspiracy
Stephen
isn't
King saying an AR-15 style semi-automatic rifle was used. These are the guns the Republican Party and Trump want to protect. If the gun can't even make the shot at 130, 140 yards, it's not this incredible weapon of war that they're talking about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
They had one job. One job. They couldn't get it in 3 or 4 shots.
Well, maybe
I'm not complaining. I'm just
Oh
saying,
yeah,
like, this is
absolutely. But
endemic.
that's where I'm saying I'm glad that they do this to themselves. They dig their own graves. They want to abort all their babies, and 25 years from now, there's not going to be anyone left to vote for them. And they don't want to use guns. They don't want to learn how to use guns. And then when they finally think that they need to assassinate somebody, they fucking suck at it.
Yeah,
I
man.
think it's wonderful. Sean Newman. Yes, tons of stuff coming out. Need to do another podcast on it as more info and memes come out. I may have changed that around slightly.
Yeah, I picked a terrible time to pause my own podcast. I'm going on indefinite hiatus as of this last Tuesday, taking some time away. And then the president tries to get killed. I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, what a time. I'm missing like the best viral memes and everything right now.
Well, there's still plenty of them out there. All right. Next one we got. This is the part where you read the headline.
I got it. Oh, Jack blacklisted. That's me?
Yes.
Oh, I thought somebody was commenting that. I'm so new.
Oh,
Sean's job's harder than it looks.
He just makes it look hard.
Headline is Jack blacklisted.
Okay. All right. So what happened was that Tenacious D was doing a show, and they brought out the other guy, what the hell is his name? Kyle Gass.
Tenacious F.
It was his birthday, and they brought out a cake and said, "What do you want for your birthday?" And he said, "I hope next time the guy doesn't miss." And then they laughed about it, and Jack Black thought it was great. But then it gets bad because every single fucking show on their tour immediately canceled, and Kyle was dropped by his talent agency. So, and then afterwards, Jack Black said, "Oh yeah, I was blindsided by this, and I'm really regretful about what
You
happened."
mean Jack Black's lawyer said that?
Yeah, basically. And his PR firm.
Yeah.
And he said that he's canceling all shows going forward, which is an extreme move to make unless they've all been canceled for you.
Yeah, this is where DJ Khaled would come in and say, "Congratulations, you played
yourself." Yeah, that's exactly it. And so I don't know why entertainers even bother getting into politics, because it never goes well for them. If
Yeah,
they
they're not
just
very
leave
good
it
at
ambiguous, they end up alienating half of their base one way or the other. And even when they try and say something middle of the road, you just look at it, you go like, why are you wasting your time?
Pretty much. Or everybody gets mad at them and unfollows, and yeah, it backfires in a big way. You know what's funny though is that I'm noticing something that is uniparty and across the world right now. It doesn't matter the country, doesn't matter the party or the leaning left or right. Is everybody is all of a sudden against political violence, and I find this very fortuitous for people that are on the side that aren't any good at weapons, and they missed their one opportunity. And now they're like, okay, guys, game off. We're not playing this game anymore.
Yeah.
Please don't shoot back.
Whoa, wasn't that crazy? Hey, let's all go home now.
Violence. Nobody.
It's just like when all the lockdowns ended, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that was a crazy time." So, still buddies, still pals.
Yeah. Cancel culture's completely crazy culmination. There's some alliteration.
Yes, indeed. So there's been a whole lot of stuff happening in terms of cancel culture, and people are calling it cancel culture gate. But there was this UBC professor who was saying that they were disappointed that it didn't kill him. There was all kinds of people in all kinds of different places saying it's a damn shame that guy missed. And lots of them have lost their jobs for it, including an old lady at Home Depot. And then
Let's hear it.
here was a good response to that. Politicians being genuinely scared on January 6th was one of the best political events of my lifetime. Almost every elected politician is an evil psychopath. It's good when bad things happen to them. Do you think I should be allowed to work at Home Depot? And
Wow.
so, yeah, I thought that was a pretty good take. But the gist of this whole thing is that there's probably dozens of people who have lost their jobs in the past several days over poorly thought out tweets or posts on Facebook or whatever else about this guy missing.
Hmm.
And
This
I
is
don't
the
know.
problem when people figure out that they can get social clout for what should remain an inner monologue, and they make it an outer digital monologue. And there's no takesies backsies on the internet. You know, you can delete things on Twitter, but the internet never forgets. One of my favorite
Mhm.
meme pages has screen caps of deleted tweets that then underneath say this tweet has been deleted. You
Yeah,
can't delete anything online anymore.
yeah, the internet's forever. I mean, until it isn't. But it's this whole cancel culture thing has been really interesting because I think that this is simultaneously a bad thing and a good thing. I think that people shouldn't be getting fired over tweets. I mean, it's one thing like if anybody here owns a company and they get some outcry to fire one of their employees, here's what the right answer should be. If you're in my store and they say something like that, by all means, tell me immediately. I want to know. But when they're at home on their own time, I'm not paying them to do this. I have no affiliation with what they're doing or saying outside of work hours. And if outside of work hours, they do whatever the hell it is that is in poor taste, that's on them. It has nothing to do with this job that they do here for me. And I'm not interested in going through the trouble of firing them and hiring somebody else just because they're stupid outside of work.
That's the appropriate libertarian take, and I would agree with that to a point, but the problem is that if it's on a social platform that people don't know whether you're on or off hours when you're making these things, and they just see that you're related to this party or this company or this corporation, suddenly the court of public opinion is going to sway in a way that's going to affect those bodies that you represent, and so in that position, it does become a position of are we doing triage? How hard would it be to replace this person? Is it worth trying to back them? Are they that essential? I mean, I'm just looking
Well,
from
you
the
don't have to
greedy
back them.
capitalist point, you know what I mean?
From the
Like,
greedy
they're more worried
capitalist
about their
point,
stock.
I think it's not even the capitalist point. It's the fact that there's an individual at that company that doesn't want it's easier for that individual at that company to fire that person than take potential blowback and hurt their livelihood by not doing it.
Yeah,
I
that
think
that depends on the situation. So Dylan Mulvaney would be the counter argument to that. One simple person doing one simple thing, and how many billions of dollars did Anheuser-Busch lose within a week?
all of
Like,
them.
yeah, all of them. They lost all the dollars. So, I mean, other corporations see that and they're like, I don't care if he's on or off hours or if this was officially, whatever. We can't have even the risk of losing all the dollars. And I don't know. It seems it's cowardly. And I agree in the libertarian sense. Let people talk. More discourse is better. But yeah, I see it from both sides. I'm kind of just here for the memes, to be honest, but I do feel bad for these lower paid individuals that, flapped off at the gums in a way they thought they weren't going to get any blowback from, and all of a sudden they're out of work.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that there's been and Leanne said this is there's lots of people who lost their jobs for not getting a she meant jab too.
Mm,
And
that's true.
I mean, you look at Don Cherry. All he said was you people. Who is it even racist against? Right?
Yeah.
What race are you people? And
What do you
so I mean
mean,
there's
you people?
yeah, exactly, right? But there's been so many of these things happening for years that only seems to affect people on the right. And
Mhm.
now it's happening on the left. And this is the part where it's good because it's a bloodbath. And the only way that this is going to stop on both sides is if both sides are like, you know what, this is a horrible idea. Let's never do it again. Right.
Yeah, there
When you
we
got
go.
like
Some
the whole
mutually assured destruction. Let's do that.
exactly right? And then everybody backs away. If you're the only country with nukes, you're not going to sign a non-proliferation treaty because
Yeah.
you're going to be like, and that's been the left forever with this cancel culture. Is they're like, well, we've just got this magic button that if anybody says something too realistic, we can just get them fired. And
Yeah.
oh shit, now we're getting fired too. Okay. This is starting to get a little crazy. Let's just everybody back off.
I like that
And
idea. If the left was like the US in this case in 1945, and they were the first ones to the bomb, and say
Mhm.
2016 is where I really started to see cancel culture pop off, and everybody was worried about being canceled by that point. It took us as the right, unfortunately in this case the Soviets in this analogy, to come out with the super maybe like 5 or 6 years later, and now we're at like, okay, maybe we should do the Cold War thing because these are starting to get a little bit scary. Everybody's getting fired.
actually, you know what? It'd be interesting to see what a cancel culture Cold War looks like.
Everybody be very polite.
Yeah.
All right, next one is store your politics.
And oh, I gotta find this damn thing. Here we go. So this is a tweet I just thought was interesting. This guy said, drove out of my way to support a local coffee shop, saw this, turned around and left. And for those of you who are listening and not watching, it's a rainbow flag with a Black Lives Matter fist over top of it. And I can totally relate to this. There's this
Yep.
store nearby that I would literally spend hundreds of dollars, this small town store, and like a year at this store. Not like I'm gonna personally pay their mortgage, but I would give them a fair bit of business. But they have a bunch of stuff like this in the window, and I've never even set foot in that place.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that there's a lot to be said for saying, hey, you know what? If this is your thing, that's cool, but leave it outside of your workplace. Because I mean, if
Well,
that had never been in that store, yeah, I would have bought all kinds of stuff from them. But
I blame Larry Fink for this because he made it seem like it was a good idea to do the forced behaviors thing, the DEI thing of like, we're going to be diverse and because we have to, because of all these corporations through BlackRock. And, without getting into the politics of why that makes sense at that level, all these smaller businesses are like, yeah, we too, we're a part of the team. And they're like, they don't realize that they don't have to do this. And they're actually, again, alienating at least half of their potential customers. I remember down in the States this last winter when I was driving around some areas and looking for a restaurant to, it was a nice area of Florida. I'm like, I'm going to check out what the food is like here, take my kids out. And I would see one with like exactly that, the rainbow flag, the black fist. And I'd be like, all
mhm,
right, not that one, not that one,
yeah,
not that one. It's what the Zennials would call the ick. It all gave me the ick. I'm not going to take my family somewhere that gives me the ick.
absolutely.
Next, Calgary water is a drip.
So it turns out that I think I mentioned this was just mentioned on some talk radio a few weeks ago, but the city of Calgary, the report from the city of Calgary indicates that 22% of its water was lost in 2022, and 88% of that was because of leaks. And at the same time, Edmonton loses 5% of its water.
Hmm.
So basically, out of every 100 liters that they pump from, assuming it was one magical place, and out of every 100 liters that gets pumped out of there, that goes towards everywhere in Calgary, and I think Airdrie and Chestermere as well, uh, 22 liters of that just disappears along the way. And so, these people are saying, we got to conserve water. We don't have enough water. We need more water. The water isn't how much they pump, it's how much water they get to the final destination.
Hmm.
And if conserving water is so goddamn important to these people, why don't you throw a little bit of bubble gum on all these pipes?
At the very least. I crimp your tinfoil hats on for this one because when I see 22% of water is being leaked, I'm like, there has got to be a black water trade going on where somebody is siphoning partway through. And I'd
Ooh.
be checking some fat cat corporate
Oh,
tights and politicians for how big their pools are in their backyard. And if they've got like some tanker trucks rolling in and out every now and again, how much does water go on the black market right now?
yeah, like when pot farmers used to steal power.
That's right. This is indicative of something.
That could very well be possible. I had just assumed that it's because they spent all their money on rainbow crosswalks and bike lanes and ridiculous art and Ford Mustang EVs for their fleet, that there was no money left over for, actually doing the job properly.
There's probably a
But
lot of that too.
yeah, I imagine so.
What we got next? Toronto water is a flood. That's where all the water's going.
Yes.
It went to Toronto.
Well, that was the joke I was gonna make. So thanks for that, Drew.
I'm sorry. I found that low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. So so there's all these floods going on, and this video says shocking video of Toronto Maple Leaf superstar Mitch Marner caught in flood after heavy rainfall, which I thought was pretty good. But you've got all this stuff. Look at all of that water everywhere. And there's a bunch of people saying it's because they diverted a river to do a bunch of new construction, and there's a bunch of people saying it's because the infrastructure sucks. And then there's a bunch of people who were kind of in charge of this stuff just saying it's because of climate change.
Yeah, I saw Trudy talking about that.
Yeah. Now, maybe my tinfoil hat, I would say that municipally, Canada hasn't been doing well for a very long time. And that I think it's far more likely that they have poor planning and poor execution and poor contingencies rather than it just being climate change, especially when you think about the fact that, they're worried about it being 2 degrees of warming over a century, which works out to 0.02 degrees annually.
Yeah.
And if something warms up, I mean, you think about it, like, how long do you have to put something in the microwave for to warm it up for 0.02 degrees? That's not a lot of energy. That's not a lot of extra oomph being put into the ecosystem. And for this to be the result of 0.02 degrees, I find that to be a little bit far-fetched.
Okay, you call that a tinfoil hat? That was barely the tip of a conspiracy theory. What I'm seeing is Drake's mansion is flooding right now. And if water
It's
is becoming a
funny you should
commodity,
mention that.
this man is rolling in a new commodity right now. He was the first to market. He got a tip, maybe like a Pelosi style tip, that water is going to be the hot thing in Calgary. And he started stocking up like Bitcoin. Look at this man. He's hoarding.
Yeah. The rich always just want to hoard their wealth, don't they?
The 1% got all our water.
Well, they pay 80% of the taxes, so there's that.
Next, the other Randy unmasked.
Yes. So, oh shoot, I think we got to go to our next. I have so many tabs this week.
3,000 tabs.
Yes. So this
There
guy.
was one up.
All right. So we've talked about this as it developed, where Randy Bissonnette has a company that he's a 50% owner in, and it appeared as though he was directing things and using his influence in Parliament to get a bunch of extra work and direct the flow. And it all kind of started to culminate on this one particular text where someone had sent something that said, get Randy to do it, or Randy's going to take care of this. And so now the big question, and so Randy Bissonnette had said, well, it was a different Randy. It wasn't me. And then they said, okay, well, we're going to get the guy who sent the text message, who looks like some kind of a cartoon fucking villain, to get in and testify. And so here's what this guy had to say.
How many people work for Global Health Imports? What's the total staff complement?
121.
How many are named Randy?
Global Health Imports, there was one up until September 2021, Randy Weissenel.
What is happening with that guy? He is like a whole new brand of cutting edge France fashion all at once. What is happening? Is that a real person, or is this a lizard?
That's a real
It's like,
person.
wow.
And if you look closely, you can even see that he's got his fingernails painted black.
Nice.
Like he
Wow.
looks like if Showtime did a shitty movie in 1997, this would be the villain.
Yeah, this is from a
And-
Minions movie.
Yeah, basically. And I mean, aside from the millions of dollars of government money that this company has got through ill gains, I would say even looking at that, his far greatest crime is fashion.
Yeah. First of all, is the actual story here that there's nepotism in politics? Is that what they're arguing over? No, there couldn't possibly be a favor for this guy because I know him and I like him. There's nothing. None of that would
Well,
happen, right?
this isn't even favors. This is Randy Bossinalt or Bissonalt or whatever the hell, basically funneling money into his company.
Oh, okay. So there's a little bit of a little tip for tat in that way. You know, there was
Yeah.
a construction company out here in Alberta. I'm not going to drop any names, but those who know. And there was a guy that hired all of the people. And interestingly, for an Albertan company, this hiring guy would only
He
hire
hired his
people.
brother company. He hired his
It would
brother's
only
company.
it would only be people from Newfoundland. And
Oh,
it had nothing to do with this guy being Newfie himself. It was so obvious, and I mean, he finally got caught when people found out that the people he was bringing over for these trades positions had photocopied trade tickets that all had the same number. That they were
mm,
just bringing people over. It's like, now you're a pipe fitter, and they would just put him on to live gas plants. And it was a joke in the sites that he was the codfather, and the codfather will get you
ah,
work.
oh, for sure, it's best kind. And Diana Thomas said someone said he was wearing red heels. I would probably believe it because they would clash horribly with his outfit, and that seems to be more or less on brand for that dude.
Wouldn't that fit with like Canadian politics? Wasn't there a time they were all walking around in red heels for something?
Oh, yeah, I don't know, something
Just got the
about women.
leftovers.
I don't know. It was like it would have been too much for them to put tampons in, so they just went with the heels.
Next, you don't hate the media enough. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, so there's quite a bit here. First off, there was a whole lot of people or a whole lot of media organizations talking about the assassination attempt without actually talking about the assassination
Yeah, they
attempt.
would never say that.
Intentionally misleading. So here's the Denver Post. Gunman dies in attack. I would say that that's Trump safe after incident at rally. Ugh.
Where's the one that talks about a
Donald
loud noise?
Donald Trump escorted off stage by Secret Service during
Yeah, there we
rally
go.
after loud noises ring out in crowd.
Imagine for a second just swapping this out with JFK in 1963. Loud noises fire off in Texas. President whisked away.
President left motorcade early with a headache.
Yeah,
With a
lies
splitting
down for
headache.
nap.
He's
Wow,
taking a
guys.
breather.
It's so
He's-
hilarious in real time that this is going to look like we were living in comic land 10 years from now. The history books are
Oh,
not
yeah.
going to be believable. Nobody will believe this
Well,
stuff. The
they're
kids will
not
be
going to
like,
be kind to this era
who
at
wrote
all.
this? Like, no, you have to believe me. This is what it was.
This is what they were telling everybody. You had Jen Psaki. So right now, Joe Biden has COVID, conveniently
Oh
enough.
man,
He's
poor
pulling a
guy. We should
page
get
out
him
of
on
the Justin
something.
Trudeau book. Oh, I'm getting a lot of bad press. I also have COVID. And
Mhm.
so Jen Psaki is talking about the idea of him getting over this COVID. And she says he's 81 years old. Joe Biden surviving COVID is literally the same thing as Donald Trump getting shot in the head.
On that, these two old and has COVID. Should he be fine in a couple of days? Doesn't that convey exactly the same thing? That he's strong enough, older than Trump, to have gotten something that used to really be fatal to people his age.
Okay, I have so much to say on this. You're gonna have to hold up. This is a
All
hold
right.
up
Okay,
moment.
we're going to stop
Holy
the
shit.
clock for a minute.
This is where the rant for Drew's side comes in. Give me a break. All right. First of all, this is not going to look good 10 minutes after she posts it. Forget 10 years after she puts this thing out.
Mhm.
We're talking about Biden, which, by the way, I don't know if this is in your news notes yet, but there are rumors that just started circulating last night that he has already decided to
Getting
step
ready to
down,
step
maybe as
down.
soon as this weekend. And this
Hopefully he
was, of
doesn't
course,
do it at the
brought out
top of
just
the Air Force
before.
One stairs.
Yeah, he'll step down all right, all the way down. No, but see, this guy is so bad, and they're trying to steel man and lionize this guy in real time. It's so bad in real time, but they're going to use COVID. Okay, this is where it's funny for me. So this guy is boosted to the gills. All right, he was all winter of suffering and death for everybody while he's getting his 4th and 5th shot, and then he comes out when he's having a bad day after a bad debate, and everybody hates him, and his polls are going down, and Donald Trump didn't die when he was supposed to, and everything's looking bad, and Obama's like, maybe it's a good idea, Joe, if we step down and maybe let my wife get in for this one. And you've got this guy who's saying COVID. Okay, COVID. Guess what? The first thing they did, and they said that the first thing, okay, they're going to do is they got him on Paxlovid. You know what Paxlovid is? Paxlovid is another Pfizer drug that literally pauses your symptoms for a week. They come right back, rip-roaring back a week later. And we've seen this all throughout the pandemic of all these lefties that are like, all right, we got our jab, but we got COVID. So what are we going to do? We're going to take the next Pfizer drug to just say, oh, we got all better in the same day. No, you didn't. 7 days later, you get what they call a repeat infection. It's not a repeat infection. It's the same infection that's been waiting there for the Paxlovid to disappear. And so what we're going to get is Joe's triumphant return from COVID that is just a Paxlovid rebound bound to happen.
Oh, you think he actually has COVID?
No, I
mean,
think
he's not just using it as a convenient excuse?
This is the problem that I have with the story that they're giving, is they're trying to lionize this guy as he's so strong, this 81-year-old person who's, if he can survive this, it's the same as surviving a bullet wound. And
here's the thing, they're expecting him to survive. If COVID is so goddamn bad, I mean, this is like the equivalent of being like, yeah, Joe Biden had both of his arms chopped off, but we figure he'll be waving at everybody next week.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
If COVID's nearly as bad as everybody in the media pretended it was for years, this wouldn't be seen as something that they're expecting. They would be like, oh shit, is he going to die? Nobody said, is he going to die at any point in any of this coverage?
Yeah.
Hey,
just that one clip of this lady requires like a 10-hour step-by-step breakdown of the mental gymnastics, backflip for backflip. They're just throwing the whole book at this thing to try to just flail to make anything make sense, where at the same time, days later, they're going to be like, well, the man stepping down, wasn't it good for him? He's getting old. We've seen some marks of senility. Oh, you have you? You've been noticing?
Yeah, it's amazing how stunned everybody was when we've literally been talking about it for years. But wait, Drew, there's more.
Oh, God.
You don't hate the media nearly enough. CBC/Radio Canada board approves bonuses for 23-24. A spokesman for CBC would not disclose how much money was doled out in the 1,194 eligible employees during the 2023-2024 fiscal year, says it's internal information. So this just came out. This isn't the last round of bonuses. This is the latest round of bonuses.
This is like the CBC deciding that they deserve to have more government money. It's basically the government deciding that the government needs more money. It's like that old joke. It's my favorite joke, that the brain is the most important organ in the body, according to the brain. Like, of course it is. You know what I mean?
Oh, it's like in 1867, we became a country with members of parliament. And then in 1872, I think it was, they all voted to take summers off.
Yes, very impartial.
And it's been happening ever since.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how, like, if you give people the option of voting to get the entire summer off, they all vote yes. And then not a single one of them since has been like, you know what, that seemed a little bit self-centered.
It's so endemic. It's a joke, right? There's no point even bringing up these storylines, because it's every day from every bureaucratic organization you can imagine. Like, there was the one.
Okay, well, that's our show then.
Yeah, just wrap it up, boys. That's every story is basically a different version of this. There's one for years during the pandemic where people were trying to grill Fauci with, how much are you making on royalties on things like the jabs, things like Paxlovid, things like remdesivir? How much are you making? And he's like, well, I don't have to disclose. Legally, I don't have to disclose. Finally, after 2 court cases, they forced him to disclose. And it turns out that him and the NIH and about 200 other scientists in there are making somewhere in the realm of $710 million off of these things that they just so happen to be the only possible cures, the only ones allowed to be. Like, it's so blatantly obvious.
Already, Fauci was the highest paid civil servant in the United States even before that.
Yeah, within 3 million different employees in the than
everybody else.
including the
Even
president.
the president. Yeah, you, me, same page. Here's another one. Chorus, which is global, is firing 25% of its staff. And by the way, I just looked at their stock. So in this article, it says that they're trading at 20 cents. They should have had an updated feed here rather than a stock picture, because it was just at 10 cents the other day.
Oof.
So over the last couple days, they've lost 50% of their market cap. I think if this gets any lower, Sean and I might buy it.
I was gonna say, are you gonna go short or long on this? Buy the dip.
So anyway,
The only
this
way
is-
that it comes back, the only way, which is actually pretty likely, is they get more government subsidy, right? It's the only way they can.
well, or somebody like, I don't know, Elon Musk says, here's $3 million. I'm going to buy this. And
Pulls it
none
out of
of
his
you
back
work
pocket.
here. Well, yeah, basically he's like, well, how much do I owe you? Okay,
Yeah, I
here,
got
just
some
keep
change.
keep the change. Keep the change. Right? But I mean, it's getting to the point, it's at 10 cents a share. It's almost at the point where any one of us could do that.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah, keep the change. And then make it into something actually worthwhile.
Oh,
Just be like,
interesting.
yeah, we're basically going to keep the cameras, a couple of the sets, and like 3 key grips, and everybody else can get out. Right. But
just purchase the whole company, and then before you go live with any of the stories that the government is not going to like, which is all of the stories, ask them for another stipend, and they'll likely give it to you because they just rubber stamp that shit, take the money, sell the company, and leave. You don't need it. They're just handing money away. Might as well get in line.
or you just be like, hey, so we didn't get any of that government subsidies. So here's what's actually going on in the world.
Yeah, your
And-
swan song.
Oh, just totally extort them and just be like, yeah, so Justin Trudeau sucks, and here's why this week. Man, it'd be nice if we could get some of that government money. We probably would be so busy spending it that we couldn't report on things like this. Hey, Justin.
CSIS would be so angry. They'd pull up every list you're on.
I thought this was one good thing to come out. This was immediately after the assassination attempt on Trump.
You remember what you caused. This is your fault. You.
This guy is yelling and pointing at the media there at the rally and saying, this is your fault. It's your fault. And I think he's probably right.
He's right, but I think for the wrong reasons, because and this is my conspiratorial take on the thing, which you didn't ask for. That's assuming that we've got a lone gunman that has nobody backing him. You know, that it was actually somebody that was just propagandized, which I'm sure he was. But this has got CIA written all over it, man. I saw something this morning, not vetted. I saw something this morning that said that there are 3 international encrypted bank accounts under this guy's name. 3 of them. Offshore, international, encrypted bank accounts under Crooks's name. Okay, this is a 20-year-old that had to borrow his dad's rifle. Like, what are we talking about here?
And he bought 50 rounds of ammo that day.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, means he's not that practiced of a shooter, that he didn't just have like at least enough to fill a mag before he went. Just handy.
It's so sloppy that they might as well have had one of Joe Biden's handlers walk him up the steps and sort of shuffle him into position.
They could have had his press secretary up there.
Look,
Well, I
the
mean, like
media
I said-
has a
like I
lot
said
to blame
before,
in this.
it was-
The media has a lot to blame, but
Yes.
I don't think that the media made this guy in the way that, like, he had a
The
runway.
one
to do this.
place where a shooter would set up, and we're just going to lean a ladder against it, and everything's going to be fine. All right.
I like big busts, and I cannot lie. You made me say that. Somebody's got to clip that out of context. My wife's going to get some weird
Basically-
text messages.
Okay. So what happened is that this bust of the Chief of Justice at the Supreme Court of Canada showed up in their lobby. Somebody paid for this. Somebody commissioned this bronze sculpture, gave it to them. They put it in there. And then somebody said, Well, the plaque on the bottom is blank. Who donated it? And everyone's shutting up and no one will tell them who donated it or why. And this isn't a former Chief Justice. This is the current Chief Justice. This is the highest
Ooh.
legal person in the country. And somebody made a bronze statue of this dude, put it in the lobby, and no one will explain what the fuck is going on.
Okay, I got two takes on this. Here's the boring take. The boring take is he bought it for himself and he's embarrassed. And he hoped that somebody would take one on the chin and be like, no, I did it. You know, and he's just like, I don't want people to know I made it for myself.
I
That's
would
the boring
totally make
take.
a bronze statue of myself. I would have it behind me. That would be
I'm the
awesome.
Chief Justice.
Well, just actually, you know what? I'd probably do it with that idiot outfit too. Just me right here like this from the neck up and just on that body. That would be perfect. I would totally do that if I got bailout money. Sean, if the mashup gets bailout money, we're getting bronze statues.
Yeah, this is probably some drunk text that's involved in this to some bronze smith that's I got a great idea, man. It's like 3 a.m., but I got a great idea. Hear me out. I got the money for it too. Or
That would
here's
be
the other
awesome.
take. Here's the other take, and this is where you really got to like double your tinfoil. You remember what's the what were they called? The Georgia Guidestones. You remember the Georgia Guidestones back in 2022? I believe they got
The
blown up
name's familiar, but I
mysteriously.
can't remember what it.
So
What-
there were these Guidestones that were down in Georgia. Surprising with the name Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah.
That basically they were three major monoliths that were semi reminiscent of a Stonehenge kind of setup that they would have cost millions of dollars to create. And on them it had in 3 different languages, I believe, maybe 6 different languages, sort of like the Rosetta Stone, a whole bunch of edicts about what the future world is going to be like and what it should be like. And part of it was that the world population should go no higher than 500 million people. It was very cryptic. Nobody took accountability for it. It popped up out of nowhere. Nobody knew who commissioned it or anything. And apparently they found out the guy who built it, and he had signed a non-disclosure agreement for his entire life. He refused to tell anybody who commissioned this thing. And then of course it sort of got blown up in 2022 because people looked at it as part of like the new world order.
It blew up as it became really famous, or
No,
somebody...
they literally detonated it. Somebody blew it
Okay.
up with like Semtex. So they blew this thing up in the middle of the night, and it was seen as this like shot across the bow against the globalists. So I'm catching all the conspiracy theorists up if you're not QAnon enough. But this is the thing. So maybe this guy made a bust because it's part of some occultic ritual that has something to do with like there's some magic involved in this.
What if there's something inside it?
Yes, now we're talking. There's some blood.
That's what I want to
important.
know. Okay,
Yes.
so first off, yeah, it's probably some corruption. Somebody got a favor going their way, and they said, okay, well, we're going to give you a bronze statue. I want to see what's inside it. Like that 1,000-year-old Buddha statue where they found a skeleton in it.
Yeah.
I wonder what's in this thing. I
Oh,
wonder if
no.
it's like, you know, a piece of some dead hooker from Robert Picton's farm or something.
That was the joke about Elon Musk sending a car to space. Remember that you got a hooker in the trunk?
Oh,
Like, what
okay.
is-
So
Go ahead.
I can't remember. Did I tell this last week? Maybe I did. If I do, I apologize. But I got this neighbor around the corner, absolute beauty, and he's got this car he loves. And I went and knocked on his door because I was out walking the dog, and he'd left the window open on the car. You know, you kind of just want to let somebody know. And then he came out, and we were chatting for a little bit, telling me how much he loves this car. And he says it's great. It's so roomy. It's got more room inside of it than an SUV. And it's got a 12 dead hook, or it's got a 12 hooker trunk. And
This is a unit
I
of
was
measure
like,
where he comes
"Oh?"
from.
and then he says, well, I mean, they're dead. They don't have to be comfortable.
Yeah, 4 alive, but you know, when you're in a pinch. All right, TMX is bigger than BC. No doubt.
So the Trans Mountain Pipeline has boosted Canada's economy 0.25 percentage points,
Let's go.
while the entire province of British Columbia accounts for 0.23 percentage points.
Oh. Sorry, BC.
So, I mean, maybe there's not a lot of money in hemp necklaces and hacky sacks, but the TMX pipeline while being ran by the goddamn government, is outperforming the entire province of British Columbia.
You know who should be
And
really
it just
embarrassed in this? Who should be most embarrassed? Not BC,
everybody.
China. China should be more embarrassed. They need to pump more money into BC, guys. Come on. Vancouver, Japanada needs a little bit of help here.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. But here's the thing is that do you remember all these people, you know, like Jagmeet Singh and Elizabeth May saying that there's no economic case for this pipeline? There's no economic case for this pipeline. No economic case for this pipeline. Trudeau saying there's no economic case for natural gas. Meanwhile, this metal straw that goes from Alberta to the coast is making more money than BC.
Is there an economic case for BC anymore? Should we just sell it?
Actually, yeah. Maybe we need to decommission Vancouver Island.
Man, I'm gonna go
Keep it
short
in the
on
ground.
BC.
Keep it in the ground.
Unreal.
Donnie Schwartz says, "Drill, baby, drill."
Yeah, they could use some of that. Whining about wine.
Yes. So wine war over. Deal reached to allow BC wineries to sell directly to Albertans. The gist of this is that BC has different regulations than Alberta. And the AGLC, the Alberta Gaming and Liquor Commission, who are a bunch of bureaucratic fools, by the way, if any of you are listening, you suck. They wanted to make sure that BC was, you know, making sure that they got as much money as they possibly could from this thing. And it ended up at a standstill that went on for quite some time. And now they've reached an agreement, and the wine is going to be able to flow across provincial borders, despite the fact that we have written down somewhere in some constitution or act or some damn thing that the provinces have free trade between them.
Yep.
And yet, with a couple exceptions, it's illegal to personally transport alcohol over provincial boundaries.
First of all, show me the cop that's checking the provincial boundaries, because I've crossed them a few times. I've
Quebec,
never
New
seen
Brunswick is basically the big one. There's a guy who went to the Supreme Court of Canada a little while ago because he went to fucking Quebec, filled up an entire van load of booze, and brought it back for his daughter's wedding. And he got pulled over, and then they checked, and they're like, "Well, where did you buy this booze?" And he said, "Fucking Quebec." And they said, "Fucking jail."
That sounds like a Mexican chep stop. Like, you got a lot of wine there. It'd be a shame if I took all of it.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it is a big deal because New Brunswick has incredibly large alcohol taxes, from what I understand, and Quebec, they're a lot more
A little more liberal.
reasonable. But I mean, you do pay something like 18% tax on everything you buy in fucking Quebec anyway. But the point is that it's a very real thing. Like, I don't know. Every time I go to Lumsden, I always bring back some Last Mountain Distillery because there's a bunch of stuff they make there that I can't get in Alberta. And, you know, I'll bring back a couple cases of Bow or whatever else. But it's
Well, now
illegal. And
You
so
don't have to worry
anyway,
about being arrested for it now, it sounds like.
yeah. But the thing about it is that the right answer is sell it here, sell it wherever. If our people want to buy it and your people want to sell it, who are we to decide that you can't be happy? And so anyway,
All I hope too is that they build a pipeline for the wine between the two
ooh,
provinces.
couldn't
Now
you
we're
imagine if
talking.
that one also outperformed the rest of BC?
All right, Freeland falling. Freeland falling.
Abilities
Yes.
as finance minister.
So
Has views.
Chrystia Freeland has been taking a lot of heat lately because she sucks at her job and she's stupid.
Lately.
From the day she got the job. And so there's been a lot of speculation, especially with this upcoming cabinet shuffle, that she ain't going to work here no more. And here's what she had to say about the job she's been doing.
Are really something you should ask the Prime Minister about. But I am really happy to speak for myself and offer my perspective. And my perspective is that Canada is the best country in the world, and Canadians are amazing. And it is a huge privilege for me to serve Canada and Canadians as your finance minister and as your deputy prime minister.
So yeah, how do you feel about the job you've been doing? Canada's a great country. Everybody loves Canada. Now clap for me.
Yeah, she sounds like
I mean,
someone who's never had to beg for her job before.
If that's the best job you can do of defending yourself, like just imagine Office Space. You got the two Bobs sitting there. Well, what do you think it is that you do at this company? Hey,
exactly
don't we have a lot of great Bobs here? Round of
do you
applause for the
do?
Bobs.
Totally. You know, I'm just surprised that she could say that all in English. I was expecting German at some point.
That's pretty true. Although, I mean, that paper that her grandfather wrote, it was for the Nazis, but was it in Ukrainian or was it in German?
You know, I don't
See,
know
not
how
every
much the
Nazi
right
speaks German.
cares. True, true. Who am I to judge based on a simple language? But all I'm saying is that, you know, maybe she has a future in the SS. She can go down to Argentina and find where they're hiding out or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, our, she'd be the only leftist that wants to move to Argentina right now anyway.
Next, good old parole.
The balaclava racist, not the baklava racist, that's in Denmark. The balaclava rapist, Larry Takahashi, gets full parole more than 40 years after attacks. This guy has been serving 3 or 6 consecutive life sentences for a proliferation of rapes that happened right around 1980. He attacked, as in raped, 23 women in Edmonton more than 40 years ago.
What?
And was serving 3 consecutive life sentences, or 6, whichever one it is, and they gave him parole. And so now he's going to be out. But he's not allowed to go to like public pools or something like that. He can't have alcohol or drugs. He's not allowed to have access to pornography. And yeah, a few stipulations like that. Probably they're going to discourage him from getting too rapey. But 23 women.
Okay.
Now,
you
first
remember
off, it's weird that there were actually 23 women in Edmonton that somebody wanted to have sex with in the first place.
I'm not touching that one.
Like, all joking aside, though, that's a lot of fucking people. They put him away for the rest of his life several times over. You don't let that person out again. Drew, you okay? Drew's
My
Drew's
bad. I
adjusting.
forgot to plug the computer in. I was about to go dark.
Oh.
Zero dark 30 there. All right, I'm back.
All right. So yes,
I've got okay. You remember the movie Con Air, the great Nicolas Cage movie Con Air? They had that
Yep.
guy, what was in like Johnny 29 or something like that. That was like he's called Johnny 29 because he raped 29 women, and he was like, if they knew the real
if
story,
they
it'd be
actually knew what
Johnny
it was, it'd be
100.
Johnny 500 or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, bro, I think Canada is so pathetic. I mean, I love Canada and I hate Canada in equal measure for different reasons. And for us to be like, you know, maybe he's learned his lesson at this point. In 27 rapes, really, you know, we've done enough time. How about go back to maybe even half of those women and say, how unraped do you feel right now? Do you feel like the raping is done? Like it's something
Do you feel
you
like
can
you
just be over at this
successfully?
point?
Do you feel like you've successfully moved past this?
Right. If you can get
Did-
at least a 50% that they're like, yeah, you know, this guy's probably an all right dude. Sure, let him free. Otherwise, the noose. What are we talking about here?
Well, okay, yeah, the noose, but also the noose around his dick and hang him that way. But it's an interesting idea. Why isn't the parole board made up of the victims of the crime?
Let's go. That's all I'm
I
saying.
think that'd be a good way to do it.
Next up, equalization is anything but.
Yeah, it turns out that well, Angus Reid did the self-commissioned poll, and it had a lot of shit. it had a lot of interesting results that, because I don't have an account, we're not going to look at. But
They got you.
well, and I didn't even reload this page. It just decided to lock me out after it had been open for a while. So that's a dick move, Calgary Herald. Basically, it was interesting because something like only 13% of Quebec thought that Alberta gave a disproportionately high amount. And
what?
it's really interesting. I don't know how many times you've had a chance to talk to people from Quebec. The kind of people who tune into a show like this understand, but the general population doesn't even understand that they're a fucking welfare case.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're saying that the welfare people are saying that, oh, no, I don't see there being any problem with being on welfare. You know, when you ask
Well,
me
no,
about
they
it, it
don't
doesn't seem that.
understand that they're on welfare. That's
Oh,
the
they
problem.
literally don't know. They literally don't know.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
it's not that they don't see it as an issue. It's that they don't even understand it.
Oof.
Yes. And so you know what? Take away everything else that sucks about equalization, which is literally all of it. The fact that it isn't a fucking check that you and I write to fucking Quebec once a year. Just fill it out like the old fashioned way and put it in mail. Canada Post, we finally found a use for you. And mail it to fucking Quebec. Memo equalization. Right. The fact that, and then they don't actually go out and cash all those checks. They don't understand where the money comes from because it goes through 5 different things. And the gist of it remains true and valid. But when you obscure it all with shit like this, people don't understand. It's the same thing with the pension plan. It's the same thing with EI. There's so many different government programs where the prairie provinces put in all the fucking money and everything east of Manitoba cashes it, and they don't even see that they're doing it.
Yeah, I think, like, people always, and for good reason, look at Canada internationally as like quasi-socialist. This is a socialist country, and I think
Yep.
that Quebec is probably the best example of it, where they're like, we don't get enough, we need to have some more, and they don't even realize where it's coming from. It's just give us more free stuff. This comes back to the whole office trope of what do you do? Like, what do you do
What exactly
here?
is it? And then they say, well, you know what? I mean, if you guys don't give us more money, we're gonna leave.
Can you imagine being extorted by the person that's taking your money?
I mean, just imagine that you've got that one guy that everybody has that guy at work that does absolutely fucking nothing. You don't even know how they got there. How did they get the job in the first place? How did they keep it? Why do they keep being given things? Why do they keep giving them balls to drop? Why are they even here? You'd be better off paying him to be at home and not even show up, or better yet, just stop paying him. And it still happens. And now imagine that guy says, well, if you don't give me a raise, I'm going to quit.
Yeah.
I've actually
exactly.
I've seen that happen twice at 2 different companies. This one guy who was literally that dude, he went in and he put in his 2 weeks notice thinking that he could leverage it for more money because someone else had put in their notice, and they said, wait. Let me just, what would it take to keep you here? And he was like, oh, that seems like a good idea. I'm going to do that. And he put in his 2-week notice, didn't hear anything. And then a week later, he's like, so you guys come up with a counter offer or anything like that? And our boss was like, no, why? He's like, well, you guys should be, trying to keep me here. And you guys like, nope, I respect your decision.
We got 2 more guys lined up.
But yeah, it was a guy that should have been fired a long time ago, but wasn't. And then he quit because he thought that he was much better than he actually was. And that's the thing with Quebec, is that you basically several times a year, they put their 2 weeks notice on the fucking table. All you got to do is just file it with HR and we could be done with this whole fucking thing.
Separation. What a plan.
Yeah. Oh no, please don't.
California is now SpaceX's X.
Yes. So Elon Musk just tweeted, this is the final straw because of this law and many others that preceded it, attacking both families and companies. SpaceX will now move its headquarters from Hawthorne, California to Starbase, Texas. And what it is that it's AB 1955, which bans schools from making rules requiring parental notification if a child identifies as transgender. It basically does the exact opposite of what the UCP passed in Alberta. And he's like, you know what? That's it. I'm out. And yet another company leaving California. California, who the U-Haul business has to make special considerations because nobody goes the other way. It's all exit traffic. And then they've got to basically figure out how to get more U-Hauls back to California for the next wave, then the successive waves.
I love that that's a thing. I can just imagine flatbed trucks of 14 U-Hauls being hauled back.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just, in a nice long train, you just tie the hitches together.
Daisy chain them, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, Elon Musk was the last person that you wanted to slight on something that attacks the family because he has like 6 of them.
6 kids or 6 families?
Families.
Yeah.
He's the most family man you'll ever meet.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this is actually something that disproportionately affects him. And so anyway, I like the fact that people are starting to speak with their well, not even starting to, but just it gets to the point where there's a lot of inertia with companies when it comes
Yeah.
to moving headquarters. And it takes quite a large disruption for them to be like, you know what? Fuck this. We are moving.
Yeah.
When Crescent Point moved out of Alberta during the NDP years and set up their headquarters in Regina, that was a big deal, even though they're not a giant player. But still, just the fact that they went away from the oil and gas hub, just be like, yeah, this isn't working for us. Things like that speak volumes.
So,
Yeah.
whoa. SpaceX is the only one that he's taken out. Does that mean that X is still there? Aren't they still in San Fran or something?
I think X is still in San Fran, and then Tesla is in Texas. I imagine that X is going to move there soon anyway.
Probably, yeah. Another one for DEIs.
Oh, are you kidding me? Stop with this. I didn't even reload this page. I had the
Dude, they're
article
getting
up.
ya. You're
This
getting
is
paywalled
frustrating.
on everything.
All right. God damn it. I'm
All
not
right, do
gonna
you remember this
subscribe to
story?
Business Insider. Yeah,
Oh.
absolutely. So Microsoft laid off its entire DEI division. We talked about this a little bit before. I hadn't realized that you were going to segue right into it, but here we go. And so they got rid of the whole division because they thought it was no longer strategically critical, I think was the exact wording. But basically the gist of it is that it didn't serve a positive purpose in terms of their bottom line or their ability to garnish lending or anything at all like that. And so every single one of them is gone.
Yeah, it sounds like they had a closed door meeting with Larry Fink and they're like, come on, man, we can't deal with these guys anymore. Please, Larry, let us fire them. Please, we're begging you. They're sinking us.
Yeah. And that's the thing where, because BlackRock provides so much funding to all these different companies, and it's been under the stipulation that you're going to do this stuff.
DEI, yeah.
And now it's getting to the point where they're so toxic within the workplace. They're a money sink. They're toxic within the workplace, and it just spreads that despite the fact that it fucks them over for funding, they're still further ahead in the long run by getting rid of them.
Yeah, go figure, hey? Like this is again another great example for why socialism's a bad idea, just giving money to people for the sake of an ideology instead of a meritocracy. And guess what's going to happen? You're either going to fully collapse or you're going to have to come back with your tail between your legs saying, I guess meritocracy has some benefit.
I guess there's some merit to it.
Next, Trump's VP has thoughts. Oh, that's new for a VP.
Actually, yeah, it's been a while, hey? I can't even remember who Trump's first VP was.
Pence.
Oh,
Went
right.
from Pence
Yes.
to Vance. They basically changed a couple letters.
Yes. So JD Vance, who actually was Jamil Giovanni's roommate in college, oddly enough, has been named as Trump's VP. Should he win? And it's interesting. I don't know if I'd ever heard of the guy. I mean, I'm sure I'd seen his name somewhere here and there, but I couldn't think of a single interview with him or anything like that. But here's him talking about the trucker convoy. So the thing he's retweeting says, "This is literal madness. Canada's deputy prime minister says under the Emergencies Act, banks can immediately freeze or suspend bank accounts without a court order and be protected from civil liability." Now, I'm sure we all know exactly what that is. And then JD Vance says, "This is why crypto is taking off. The regime will cut off your access to banking if you have the wrong politics." It's not the only thing he's had to say about Canada, though. What's happening in Canada is a far greater assault on democracy than anything the left has whined about the last few years. It could happen here if we don't elect people who defend our voters. The Canadian truckers have killed 0 people and are being treated like terrorists in their own country. 18 months ago, BLM rioters killed 20 people and were bailed out of prison by the future vice president of the United States. It's time for conservatives to get serious. And I can't remember. This one was kind of funny, though. Someone's trying to shit talk him. JD Vance is Trump's choice for VP. His views on women are particularly interesting. "We are effectively run in this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too."
Ohio,
That isn't the
Ohio,
gotcha.
Ohio.
That isn't the gotcha you think it is.
Dude,
like,
I like this guy. I don't know much about him. I'll admit he sort of came out of
No.
nowhere for me. But I'm in Canada, right? But all my Republican friends down in the States are like, "Oh!" It was like mic drop moment when they found out that this guy got it. And when I'm talking to them, they're like, "Well, look, he's got a military background. He's wrote a really impressive memoir that was a kind of a bestseller. He's very pro-Trump. He's very pro-business. He knows how to talk. He has an understanding for the economy." And they're like, "We cannot wait for the VP debates between him and Kamala." Can you
that's the
imagine
thing.
Kamala
Apparently,
taking the
they
mic?
just agreed to have one.
Oh my God. It's going to be like, "Today,
It's
we're
gonna
going
be.
to
It's
debate
gonna be.
about the debate of debating when you debate a debater on the debating stage of debates."
And then you got to do a nervous laugh at the end.
Yeah, it's so bad. It's going to be
probably
cringe.
gonna be worse than the presidential debate.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, people
Yeah.
10 years from now are not going to believe this wasn't satire.
You know what? We've been saying that for 10 years, though.
Next up, weeds are withering.
Yes. So, Calgary-based cannabis company announces another round of layoffs as industry continues to struggle. This Calgary Herald article, which isn't locked out to me. Why? Why was the other one locked out and this one isn't? Oh my God. This is why Canadian media is failing. Got to jump through hoops to get their shit for free. So this article, I should have highlighted it, but they've been cutting jobs every year for years. And they've put together a commission calling for a bunch of reform to the legislation that Trudeau put through, which has been largely ignored. And they're disappointed also still that just under half of the industry is black market. How much does the government suck that they make what you're doing illegal, put in place their own legal alternative, and they still can't capture half the market?
Well, look, the market that you're least likely to capture is the weed market. Because who are your customers? Do you think that they're like super cool with regulations and government? And no, they're guys that have dreadlocks. They're guys that smell like bong water. They're guys that are going to do what they want to do and get it from their broski that they've been getting it from for the last 20 years. You're not going to be able to get these people into your market.
If you deregulate it, you can. Like, how many weed stores do you see on ski hills? Probably not a lot. But you're going to see a lot of guys selling it out of their pockets.
Yeah.
If you had some guy with a backpack full of weed, government weed, and he could somehow get dispensation to sell it wherever the hell he wanted. If you get rid of there's so many roadblocks, and I'm not saying that, that one example is going to make or break the industry. I'm just saying that when you regulate the shit out of all this stuff, you take away everybody's ability to be creative with it.
Yeah.
And
Or even their want to, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Poor potheads. Next, Oilers news. How is there Oilers news? Shouldn't they be on like the back nine at this point? Is that what we're talking about? Their backswing?
Well, it's funny you should mention that.
There they are.
Here's David. And he's lining up.
Let's see his form.
Yeah, you got to watch this.
Look at those tight shorts, though.
Look at that. Look at that swing.
Oof.
That's basically like, I feel like if Joe Biden had actually done that golf match with Trump, that's probably what Joe Biden's swing would have looked like.
Yikes. Yeah, I don't see a crossover prospect for our boys.
Yeah, he's definitely not Bo Jackson.
Next, drug dens.
So, Polyev calls supervised consumption sites drug dens and vows to close some, to which the left took a lot of umbrage with. And I should have thought to find this tweet ahead of time, but Jane Philpott had one where she said, they're not drug dens, they're recovery centers. And there was a lot of other people that said the same things. Quit calling them drug dens. They're not drug dens, they're recovery centers. And the left just wants to put a name on something. And you look at it, you stand back, you look at it. Anybody who looks at it can tell it's a drug den. On the inside, it's a drug den. It gives all outward appearances of being a drug den. And no matter how many times the left wants us to call it a drug den, it's still a drug den.
It is a drug den. I got a story about that. There was they called it a safe injection site in Red Deer for years that they ended up having to shut down. I wonder why. And for the years,
crime.
Yeah, something like that. The years leading up to the construction of this place, which was right downtown, right in the epicenter, the nucleus, the hub of the city, they plant this thing. And all of the leftites, and I had some friends that were like very woke in that kind of mentality of like, this is going to be so good for these people to get them off. They're going to give them methadone. It's going to be a safe injection. You don't have to worry about dirty needles. It's going to be so everybody's going to get clean. Like, they're not going to get clean. They're going to get high. That's what they're going to do. And go figure. Okay, so when it plays out in reality, when we're done playing like the idea game on paper, what it's going to be. I had a friend who was a black belt at a jiu-jitsu gym that was right across the street from this place where it got plugged in. And one day in the middle of an afternoon, he comes out and his car is gone. And he says, where the hell is my car? There's a pile of glass where his car used to be. And he's getting mad and he phones the cops and they say, yeah, blah, 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 we'll look into it. But then he goes and starts bitching to his fellow students, one of which is a cop. And he said, listen, go across the street. I guarantee you it's at the safe injection site. The cops aren't allowed to go down there and check, so they'll never find it. They're not even going to try because they know where it is. They're going to ask where it was stolen. They're going to say, well, we know where it is. And sure enough, he walks over 40 steps away. Not only is his car there with the window busted out, but two people getting high in the front seat. And so he just scares them off and gets his car back. Like that, it's so indicative of like common sense comes to knock when you start to play stupid games. Drug dens. Next, you can bank on the carbon tax.
So what happened is that the carbon tax rebates came out last week, and the government passed a law in the I can't remember what act it was. Recent changes to the Financial Administration Act compel banks to label government payments accepted for deposit. So it used to just say federal payment or EFT Canada, and now it's required by law to say Canada carbon rebate or CDA carbon rebate, all one word. So they're having trouble selling the message. They're having so much trouble selling the message that they legislated that the banks have to call it what they want them to call it in the EFT transfers.
Yeah. This in the animal industry would be called reinforcement training. This is where you give the dog a treat for doing something good. and they know that they're getting the treat because they did the good thing. So, whether it's carbon or climate or whatever
Yep.
word they want to put behind the good thing, here's your treat, good boy, as long as you know why you got it and where it's coming from, and you'll for the next one.
But yeah, it just the messaging on this carbon tax, I just find it absolutely wonderful that the messaging is going so poorly that they had to update the whatever the hell it was, Financial Administration Act to accommodate for them getting out the message that they want. This
Yeah, we're
is
worried
not a government that's doing well right now.
the plebs don't understand who's
They're just too
feeding them
stupid.
these yummy treats. Yeah, exactly. All right, poetic bureaucracy. Give me the poetry.
This is just beautiful. Ottawa resident Kevin Brown is using the LRT these days because of what he's called an egregious and pathetic history of error by Ontario's Ministry of Transportation. This guy who lives somewhere outside of Ottawa and works in Ottawa says that this driver's license mix-up has been going on for 36 years. There's another guy named Kevin, same initial Brown, who lives in Ontario, not in the same city, but lives in Ontario, who had his license suspended. And this guy who works for the government has had this ongoing issue with this other guy named Kevin, same initial Brown, for 36 years. And no one seems to be able to straighten it out. And most recently, his driver's license was suspended because he had more than one driver's license. The other driver's license being this other guy in a different city. And he keeps trying to call into all these different departments, and they keep directing him back and forth. And he ends up in this useless bureaucratic circle while he spends 2 hours each way a day on the public transit because the government that he works for can't figure out his driver's license after 36 years. God, I just want to weep with joy.
This poor man is stuck in purgatory. This is like, you remember the old movie Beetlejuice where they gave you a
Yeah.
ticket in the underworld to go see what
Yeah.
and the ticket was like in the
Like,
millions.
in the millions, and then he takes the ticket that's like number 4 from the Shrunken Head dude, or the
Yeah.
dude the witch doctor.
This guy's stuck in the millions lineup, and he's been doing it for 36 years. This poor guy. You know what's bad is I know a Kevin Brown he may be getting mixed up with, and it would make perfect sense that you wouldn't want to be mixed up with that guy.
Well, I mean, I don't have a common name, but apparently
Tuz isn't a common name. I thought that was Ukrainian.
it's Dostoevsky. But yeah, my real life name, which will be left blank for the moment, is very uncommon. And yet there's a guy who used to live in Calgary with the same name. And when I moved out of Calgary, I was looking at a place in Carstairs, and it turns out later on, because there was a mix up with some rewards points, that if I'd have bought the house that I was looking at in Carstairs, because it had this like double deep 4-car garage with a single lean-to on the side of it, like the house was
Nice.
unremarkable, but I'm like a 5-car garage in the backyard without being this ridiculous ostentatious house. And then I went with another one at a different place, but mix up with rewards points. They're like, "Oh, are you this guy? Are you from here?" And I'm like, "No, but just can you tell me more
Out of-
about that?" And
out of
then it turns out,
curiosity.
if I'd have bought that house, the address that they had for that guy was next door. So there would have been 2 guys with an extremely uncommon name in a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, Alberta, unrelated, living right next door to each other.
Dude, I would check in between those houses for a space-time continuum breach. There's some other universe that's happening there.
Yeah, that would have been like, I kind of wish I'd have got that place instead now, almost just for that.
I can just picture you walking out in the Sunday morning to grab your newspaper and looking up and seeing yourself picking up the newspaper beside you. What the hell?
You'd be like,
Yeah, exactly. This is a Black Mirror episode.
yeah.
Next, what we got? Geology is racist. Everybody knew this.
Yes. So, racist dinosaurs? British professor links white supremacy to geology and what she calls paleontology. And so
He did not. Somebody
she
stop this man.
absolutely did. A British professor of inhuman geography is making wild connections between geology, paleontology, and white supremacy. Catherine Yusoff, a professor at Queen Mary University of London, has published a book called Geologic
Got it.
Geologic Life. And let me tell you, it's a real page turner if you enjoy struggling through random words jumbled together like a Joe Biden press conference transcript. This is obviously not the beat. Her book, published by Duke University Press, focused on historical, geophysical, and Black feminist methods to speak to issues of environmental change. And
So they haven't
anyway,
fired their
this is
DEI portion yet, I can tell. I have a guess.
this is her,
Uh-huh.
of course.
Uh-huh.
Do you ever just like, you notice how you could just look at a picture of somebody and you know roughly what their politics are?
Yeah, exactly. You can sort of guesstimate their intersectionality points.
Yep. Yeah, she said that forms of imperial geology embedded in Western enlightenment have perpetuated anti-Black, anti-Indigenous, and anti-Brown environmental and racial injustices. So this is,
Paleontology.
the sedimentary rocks, the igneous rocks, and the what's the other one?
Metamorphic.
Yes, thank you. It's all racism.
It is
Racism, all of it. Especially the most racist one by far is obsidian.
All right, next up, scary weather map of the week. Dun dun dun.
Oh, this is phenomenal. You gotta so I don't even know how many. I think I've been saying this for like 3 weeks in a row. How many more times can we continue to just have the next level of the scary weather map and the next level of the scary weather map and the next level of the scary weather map? And Vance was on last week, and he
Was he
has no
scared?
idea how. Well, his thought was because it started off with, like, I think it was a super bright red and then purple, and then they went white for really hot, and we're like, where do you even go from here? And then he thought, well, what if you did like the old West thing with the corners of the page burning and stuff like this?
I love
Here
that idea.
is CTV News. Here's
Oh
the
my
weather
God.
map on CTV News. That's it. They basically just have it overlaid with a burning forest fire.
It looks like straight out of an apocalyptic dystopian movie.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I got to give a round of applause to the graphic designer here because they just got given the direction more scary. Please, more scary. All we're missing is just dinosaurs and flying demons. Like this is M. Night Shyamalan directed this this map. This is crazy.
Okay, it's absolutely insane. Now the question becomes, where do they go from here?
Ooh, where do they go from here?
Like, and I mean, I've been saying it for like 4 or 5 weeks in a row, but where do they possibly go from this?
You know, if I were going to take a page out of the horror writers out there, there was a point in like the 1980s leading into the 1990s where it was all gore, right? The more gory, the more scary. And then everybody got kind of inoculated to the gore and they're like, well, how do we do scary? We got to do, and then they started figuring out subtlety. Subtlety was scary. We're going to have like jump scares and we're going to have little children that are actually the bad guy or the demon or whatever. And so they need to get a little more subtle on this. They've gone about as extreme, I think, as they can go. Let's get subtle. Let's have like something just a little bit disturbing that's like, I don't know what it's about. There's something about this that just really creeps me out. And then you can see, well, there's weather patterns here that must be the creepy part. And that's some proper
Subconsciously
psychological
unnerving people.
Yes. We need to get some psychologists involved here. Be like, we need to get deep into the Jungian collective unconscious and figure out what is the scariest archetype.
I would say, you'd probably be better off doing some kind of a Freudian association rather than Jungian, but I like where you're
PG
going.
Enough.
Yeah, but there's more than one. It's interesting that that's the first one you went with. Okay,
it's the first one he went with too.
Yeah, which actually is kind of a Freudian slip. So anyway, it's an interesting idea. I think that if they're going for subtlety in the legacy media, they're going to have to outsource it, though.
Yeah. Too many IQ points there. Next, climate cultists.
Yes. So here's the latest group of people who are upset about the world burning. And so, in response to that, they are pouring orange paint on an electric vehicle.
Okay. First of all, that's actually like a design improvement, I would say. We're just
Yeah,
making like what
actually,
is it, N64 graphics, real life car a little more colorful.
that's probably the best looking Cybertruck I've ever seen, with the possible exception of the one that Joe Rogan shot an arrow at.
Like
So
for
yeah,
real.
I can appreciate where you're going with that. But these people, like, they painted Stonehenge a few weeks ago to
Mhm.
protest oil, which, I mean, Stonehenge used very little petroleum products in its construction.
As far as we know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we weren't
Didn't
the
find any
aliens who built it, so we can't be totally certain.
Yeah, we didn't find any tire treads by the construction location.
Well, those are the Aubrey holes.
Yeah. Dude, it's just so typical of progressive ideologies. You can only progress so far before you start to eat yourself. This is
Mhm.
I mean, if we're talking about Jungian psychology and archetypes, this is the
Well,
idea of the Ouroboros. It's a snake eating its own tail.
well, even better, on the Apple IIe, you had that game with the snake where every time you ate something, it got longer
Yeah,
and
that's
longer and
right.
longer and longer. And eventually, there's nowhere to go. You can't eat the next thing because the next thing you eat is you.
That's right. And here we are. They're eating themselves. Go hard, man. I'm
Yeah,
here for it. Let's stand back and just watch the chaos at this point.
I couldn't agree more.
Next, Canadian polls are garbage. This is a headline. This is a
This
fact.
is Well, it's a headline, it's a fact, and it's a recurring theme. Whenever I see something, and no one's really said this is a yawn fest, so just cut it already. And so I find things when I think this is interesting. Okay. This is from a Research Co. online poll. Some school districts, basically, it says that Soji has 48% support. Okay. But here's how
Ouch.
they determine that. Here's how they determined that. Some school districts in Canada have relied on Soji inclusive education, which raises awareness of and welcomes students of all sexual orientations, gender identities, and family structures. Do you support or oppose the use of this program?
Ah. See, they didn't say anything about like the little sex catalogs that they handed
Yeah,
out.
yeah, they're not talking about, speaking to kindergarten cool kids about anal sex and masturbation. They're not talking about F is for felching. Okay,
No, their
they're
question
not
is,
talking.
Soji is good. Do you like Soji?
Yeah, and yeah, well, that's exactly it. They don't say some school districts in Canada have relied on Soji inclusive education, which typically consists of a man dressed up in a dress with his balls hanging out the bottom, waving his junk at the kids in your kindergarten class. Do you support or oppose the use of this program?
I wonder how different the poll would be if there was a third option to add your own.
Your own balls?
Well, I guess leave it up to your imagination, but I bet you it wouldn't be so far approving. I bet you'd get a whole lot of people being like, let me tell you a little bit about Soji.
Well, that's exactly it. Like, if you frame it like this, see, that's the thing is Canadian polls are garbage because typically for a lot of reasons, but you see a lot of this where it's a very leading question.
Yeah.
Where it says, would you rather vote for Justin Trudeau or chop your balls off?
Yeah.
And then they say, look, according to a recent poll, 27% of Canadians would vote for Justin Trudeau.
And interestingly, those 27% are waiting for their gender affirming care.
Yes, yeah. They're already in. Well, actually, you know what? They're not waiting for it. It's the only part that and MAID are basically the only parts of Canadian medicine that don't have ridiculous lineups.
Yeah, one tends to lead to the other too. It's kind of a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
Next,
Snowmobiles.
snowmobiles
Oh, sorry.
are
I don't
freezing.
even know why I read that.
You went Sean on me for a sec.
I couldn't imagine a worse way to be.
Is he still listening? I saw him poking a little bit earlier.
Barb says most questions are asked like this, as that is how you stack statistics your way, and that's exactly true. And that's the point I keep trying to make. Whenever you see these polls coming out saying, "Oh, it's such and such support for this or such and such whatever direction," realize that the questions, how they're asked, what order they're asked in, all of those things factor into a predetermined outcome.
Yeah. What was the old line? There's lies, damned lies, and statistics.
Yeah. So, electric snowmobile trailblazer files for credit protection. Montreal-based electric snowmobile and watercraft Taiga Motors Group Corp. Filed for creditors protection this week in fucking Quebec after struggling to scale its business. This company was an early mover in the electrification of snowmobiles, enjoyed a wave of investor attention and significant government support.
You don't say. This is my shocked face.
Yeah. Imagine my shock. And so anyway, this is just you've got Ford pulling back from EVs.
Yep.
Despite having just got billions of dollars from the government to build EVs.
Yep.
The only people who want EVs to get built are the liberals.
Yeah, which is not your demographic for snowmobiles, might I add. There's not a lot of people in Vancouver high rises that are worried about where they're going to park their snowmobile.
And snowmobiles are pretty much the worst possible fucking thing you would want to have as an EV.
Yeah.
Edmonton spent $250,000 per bus to put heating blankets in their EV buses because, believe it or not, batteries perform really poorly in sub-zero temperatures, which also happen to be the exact same fucking temperatures that you ride a snowmobile in.
Yeah, I hope they have heated seats.
Oh, so yeah, we sent millions of dollars to a fucking Quebec company that wanted to build the stupidest thing in the dumbest way possible. Nobody bought them, and now they're filing for credit protection.
Another day in Canada, boys.
But it's okay, though, because we've got
happy news.
Actually, the fact that the fucking electric vehicle snowmobile company isn't existing anymore is kind of happy news.
It qualifies.
This one's kind of fun. This is just a random tweet. I have no idea where this guy is or what the deal is. But this just warmed my heart. Just put in my notice at work, and my boss was like, "Oh, so do you have another job lined up?" And I said, "No, I just don't want to work here anymore." And reader, when I tell you how loud the silence was after that, I got a lot of enjoyment out of that. Here's the other happy news, though. So in Mexico City, Mexico City apparently has the world's worst traffic jams, where people just sit in traffic jams for hours and hours. And then Burger King said, "What if we got guys on motorcycles to drive through the traffic doing delivery of people who order burgers because they're stuck in traffic?"
Amazing. This is modern problems require modern solutions.
Absolutely. And so then they put up a bunch of ads along the way saying, "Hey, you know what? If you order, you're going to be in traffic for the next 40 minutes. So order a burger and it'll be here in 2," or whatever else. And so then they just have a whole bunch of guys on motorcycles just dropping off. This is like DoorDash, but you put in your license plate and they find you on whatever fucking gridlock you're stuck in and give you your Mexican Whopper.
This sounds like the idea that would be pitched on the season finale of Mad Men. Whoever decided that this was a good idea should win some sort of Nobel Prize. What a brilliant stroke.
Oh, absolutely. Like I love to see great business solutions. And this is something where everybody's happy. Like there's no, people like to talk about how much they hate capitalists because they don't understand capitalism, or maybe they're just, communists. But this is a company coming up with a business plan that harms no one, that gives people what they want in a way that they can appreciate. And God, is it beautiful.
I love it. And the show off with a burger. What a way to go.
Yes. So that's that. And then community notes. We just have the Sundry Music Festival, which is oh shoot, I don't know where I put my notes for it, but it's the weekend, August 16th. Julian Austin's headlining it, and Putting on the Foil is going to be there. If you've never seen Putting on the Foil, I say it every time we talk about this, go watch Putting on the Foil, even if it's at some other show. Go watch them. You're going to love it.
Nice. Are you
I don't
playing?
know. What's that?
You gonna get on stage?
No, actually, I probably won't even be there for it. But it's happening in small town Alberta, and it's just a big 2-day music festival with some big names and some names that I just am astounded aren't bigger. So,
All right, let's
anyway.
pump them up, boys.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. You got anything going on in your neck of the woods that you want to throw out? I put you on the spot here.
I guess in real time, if people are listening down in southern Alberta, I'm going to be teaching a jiu-jitsu seminar in Medicine Hat this weekend, and then the week after that will be, or 2 weeks after that, in Ponoka. So I'm kind of getting around the Alberta jiu-jitsu scene to do some instruction. I'm training
Now, is
full
this
time in Lacombe right now, so if you're around that area, you can come check me out.
Is it a 2-day thing, or is it
1 day? Yeah.
okay?
So you
A
got
1-day thing on both days, or just
Yeah.
Saturday, or what?
Yeah. So Ponoka and Medicine Hat will be 1 day. You can check out I see you've got the Instagram handle for me up there. You can find all the information that you need there.
Okay. All right. And I told you we were going to do this at the start, and then I forgot, and you didn't remind me. Social Disorder Podcast.
Yes, sir. We just crossed 600 episodes. We just had episode 600 with our good friend, Dr. James Lindsay. So if you missed that show, go check it out. I have actually put the show on indefinite hiatus for the time right now because I'm focusing on some jujitsu stuff that's going to take a little while, but it will be back. I've got a lot of really positive notes from a lot of listeners, so I appreciate all the listeners out there that were saying, we appreciate the show and we can't wait for you to come back. It'll happen. You can't keep me away from podcasting. I can't keep me away from podcasting. It'll happen eventually, but in the meantime, enjoy some jiu-jitsu content, which I'm going to be pushing out pretty heavily.
Okay, and these seminars or sessions you're putting on in Ponoka and Medicine Hat,
Yes, sir.
what's the skill level?
Anybody can come. Yep. And there's going to be lots of opportunity for question, answer, talking afterwards, even a bit of training if you want to try to kick my ass. Give her your best shot.
that would
Come on, twos, get down there. Let's
well, I don't
go.
know. I might be able to check out the one in Ponoka.
Yeah.
Murray Henderson says the Kennedy Rodeo this Saturday in Southeast Saskatchewan. I used to go to that every year as a kid, so I'm glad you mentioned it. All right. Well, that basically wraps us up. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks a lot, Drew, for filling in for Sean. And
My pleasure.
we'll catch you guys next time. Now I got to find where the stupid button is. Another Sean thing.